moving from one country to another to escape economic turmoil, only for me to create my own personal recession in the name of becoming a poet, it didn't really seem that appealing to me. So I felt like I had to make sure I wasn't that starving artist, and I got myself, established in a stable career. But what I've come to witness and realize is that hello and welcome back to any returning viewers. In today's video, I'm going to outline my plan for how I'm going to revive and sustain my writing as someone who felt like I've had a writer's block for quite some time. So if you are a writer or a creative, you might find the things I'm going to talk about in this video helpful. You might be wondering why I feel so confident considering I'm just at the start of my journey, but I understand the power of a plan and having a roadmap to follow. I've seen it work in other areas of my life, and I'm confident that I'm going to see that work in my writing as well. So if you want to skip straight to the plan, I have provided some timestamps to this video so you can skip to that. Because before that, I'm just going to discuss something I mentioned in my previous video, and that's all about feeling grounded and how that's, or not feeling grounded, has impacted my writing. So one of the things that I realized was missing was feeling grounded in my writing. And thinking about it, there are so many ways to feel grounded, but maybe I should define what I mean by feeling grounded. I mean feeling established and purposeful in what you're doing to such an extent that you're able to maintain and sustain consistency. In terms of feeling purposeful, that sense of purpose can come from different things. For example, I think money can give one a sense of purpose regarding a particular thing. On the other hand, helping others can also give you a sense of purpose. I think when it comes to being able to sustain whatever it is that you're doing, in this case, talking about writing, it's key. Being able to sustain what you're doing is key. And if you're helping people, for example, but you're not making any money from doing that, it's going to be difficult to maintain and sustain what you're doing. And of course, I think that's the conundrum that many artists are faced with, the prospect of being a starving artist on one end and too tired to be creative, but I've got food on the table on the other. And for me, as a Zimbabwean immigrant, moving from one country to another to escape economic turmoil, only for me to create my own personal recession in the name of becoming a poet, it didn't really seem that appealing to me. So I felt like I had to make sure I wasn't that starving artist, and I got myself, established in a stable career. But what I've come to witness and realize is that that conundrum is only really half true, because between those two extremes are compromises that can be made in order to make sure that you serve your artistic goals as well as breakfast, lunch and dinner. Basically, that productive middle is where I feel like I am now. But I need a structure to support that creative productivity. So next is now my outline for how I will work on my writing to make sure that I do that and get better at it whilst I'm doing so. Out of this outline, I will have to create more detailed planning so I can have clear steps to follow. This is still in process, and of course I'll be sharing as I do this. So number one is mindset. And I hopefully am not going to be over spiritualizing this, but I read something recently that got me thinking that another key part of sustainable creativity for me is treating my writing as a calling. I read a Substack by Grant Herbal, I hope I'm saying his name right, called Writing for God versus Writing for an Audience. And it reminded me that the pursuit of growth in this area and the desire to make it full-time is part of how God created me. And even though it is right that I benefit from the work I do, I'm not necessarily the main character. It's natural for us to think first about how we benefit, but it is noble and good to put the people we serve first. I also find this in my job as a teacher, that when I put my students first, I do my job better. And I haven't felt like that about my writing in a long time. And with that in mind, my focus should be on God, on how, not on how many people read my work or subscribe to my channel. If I do what I believe I'm supposed to be doing, God is going to bring the right people to benefit from my work and from what he's given me the ability to say. This is an idea again mentioned in Herbal Substack, and I'll link that below for you to have a look at. I found it really helpful in just reframing my mindset for clarity in that area. And number 2 is clarifying what I want to write about. And for me, that's the writing journey, motherhood, and faith, which I'll do in different forms. But that's been key to me because for a long time, I felt like I haven't even been confident in understanding what I want to write about. Number 3 is actually writing and restarting my YouTube channel and starting a Substack. For me, those are my main areas in which I'll be writing in, and that's been key again because for a long time I just felt like I was completely inactive in that area. And which leads me to number 4, which is kind of tied into actually writing, but also sharing that writing. And by the nature of these platforms, my writing is for the purpose of sharing. Number 5 is reading and research, something I haven't really been particularly good at in the past and something that's actually hindered my writing. So that's something I'm going to be doing, and I'm currently reading a book which I think is helping me more in my faith, and I might share a little bit about that if I think it's helpful and relevant. The next is setting SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And that's going to give me, I think, that accountability. And then number 7 is willing to make sacrifices. So this might involve waking up earlier, stopping one thing so I can do this. But the reality is that these things are not going to be achievable if sacrifices are not made one way or the other. And having the mental preparation for that, I think, is going to really help me to actually do it when it comes to it. So yeah, that's it for today's video. It's just really a run through of my outline, and also just to emphasize the necessity of a structure, because I think with creativity sometimes we feel like, oh, you can just go with the flow, and I think for me going with the flow has meant that I haven't been as productive in that area as I would have wanted to be. So this is very, very important, and that balance of structure and flow is so key. So I hope this video was helpful. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a like, a comment, subscribe to the channel, and share with a fellow creative, and I'll see you in the next one.